Yeah, it should be. See if you can hop on it now. We'll give some people a little bit of time to get in here. 0 attendees. Oh no, we got a few. All right. I mean, I guess we're getting some in here, so we might as well start it live. But
everybody's waiting.
All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 4 of the BPC podcast. We're joined today by Old Dominion pitching coach Mike Marron. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Excited to be here.
A little background on him. This is year 14 in college baseball. The 5th year as a pitching coach at Old Dominion, and was part of the College World Series run with Stony Brook a few years back. So we're going to open up with how was going to the College World Series as a Northeast lower level D1 school?
Yeah, it was incredible. It was the shortest and longest week probably of my life, right? I mean, they say that cliche once in a lifetime experience gets thrown around a little bit, but obviously the hope and the goal that you do every year is to get there. But I also know how fortunate I am to be a part of a program, especially coming from the Northeast and what we know our challenges and what we had to build to be able to get there was incredible. That experience there, obviously what our guys did on that team to get there as a 4 seed to go through, Miami, Central Florida, Missouri State. I mean, that might have been as tough a regional as there was going to come out of there and then go into LSU, which at the time had, I think gone 5 for 5 or 6 for 6 at home in super regionals and kind of, play the way we played. It was incredible. I mean, that we talk about process and journey and all that kind of stuff. And, Omaha was short, right? We went, we went there, we played 2 games and we left. But really what was special about that was the journey to get there, right? All the opportunities we had to kind of, do what we did and put a name, put that Stony Brook name on the map and, kind of prove that, it doesn't really matter what part of the country you're playing baseball in. If you can have a set of intangibles that, that post when the lights go on, you can be successful, Oh
yeah. Yeah. I mean, we were just talking about how the talent on that team with the 12 draft picks, all from that team and a couple future big leaguers. I mean, I'm sure that going in there as a Cinderella is something that, when you hear the name Stony Brook, people literally remember the name because of that run.
Sure. And, yeah, it was awesome. I think one of the keys about that team is that, it was a Cinderella team. And that's what, kind of got pegged at. And I'm totally fine with that's the way it's being called. But at no point did that group of players feel that way, right? Like they had aspirations, we mentioned, I argued that 2011 team was maybe as good. It was the same core guys that were there. And I got to say, that was my 3rd year there. So I walked into a great situation. Head coach Matt Senk has been there 30 years and has done an absolutely incredible job with that program. That is, started that from where he started to taking it to where he has now. And it's amazing what he's been able to do. He's a Hall of Fame coach. And then Joe Panucci and what he was able to do, kind of adding on to Coach Senk, bringing in the types of guys that he brought in. Like I always say, like, I just kind of stumbled into some pretty awesome dudes and my job was to not screw them up. Right. And, but those guys walked in with, believing from the very beginning of that year that they were a top 25 type of team and didn't matter who we were going to go up against. They were going to be relentless and kind of stay after guys all the way through. And, we had to come out of the elimination bracket that year in a regional. And what they did and how much the type of the type of attention that they had to keep, right, to, do double headers, like to go beat Missouri State and then go beat UCF, that type of stuff. Like, that's just a toughness that's hard to teach. And, it's part of the recruiting process, right? Trying to find those types of guys that, that can hang in there during the toughest moments.
The Northeast toughness right there. I think obviously with the coronavirus and the situation we're in, we'll kind of get going on the NCAA ruling about giving everybody else an extra year. So talk a little bit about what we're going to see because of that in college baseball and how that's going to affect how everything plays out the next few years as well as recruiting.
Sure. NCAA, the conferences, across baseball, there's no easy decisions here, right? Everything's some version of a difficult, hard decision to make, right? And if you make a decision to grant eligibility back to to just seniors, like they were talking about, well, then what about the other guys that played this year and got it cut short? And then you give it back to everybody, and then you look at it like, okay, well, what about the high school seniors? I know that's and obviously a challenging issue that you guys are currently facing there, as is across the country. And so we got to be respectful and understand, there's tough decisions to be made across the board. Fortunately for us, we're in a position that, I think that, we kind of try and build our team to be in a position to, kind of, like we only had a couple seniors anyway, as it was. And we're bringing in the freshman class that we're bringing in. And I think what that's going to do for, across the country is it's going to make things more competitive, right? I mean, if everybody speaks on, hey, one of my foundational principles is being a competitor and competing and going through all that and rising to those challenges. Well, I mean, that's what's going to happen, more than ever. I was talking with some of our guys, as we were going through these last couple of weeks, and I just said, just get prepared for a really, really competitive 2021. If we're fortunate, we get through this on the other side and everything passes and we're all healthy. We're going to have a wildly competitive fall and a really competitive spring. And if you're a competitor, that's what you're hoping for. And that goes across the board with, seniors, juniors, sophomores, freshmen, high school seniors. We're in business to, obviously create a really good experience for our guys that are in the program, but our job is to win games. And so we're going to play guys that are going to help us in our estimation, win games at the highest clip. And, it's not going to, yes, we have equity into, and that's important. The equity that we have into the players, currently in our program, that's a big deal. But, it's challenging for everybody across the board. There's not when you're dealing with something that's, as challenging and tragic as this is, baseball all of a sudden isn't quite that big anymore. Everybody will find their way through this and kind of cream rises to the top in situations like this. So, I think that once all this settles, I think, hopefully when, all the rosters start to condense and kind of get to it, then, we're excited for what this kind of opportunity presents, which is a really, really competitive fall and off season and spring season.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about all the time now about how much talent's going to be in college baseball now. I mean, the draft being cut down only to 10 rounds, so you got your back end draft picks that are now not going to get drafted that are going to stay there, and it's going to be important for these. Well, we're stressing for these guys about how they got to be ready to go when they get there. And I think too, not even just Division I baseball, but I think it's really going to help the talent in D2, D3, JUCO. I mean, you already got 200 names in the transfer portal like after the ruling, so it's really gonna trickle down and be super competitive around the board.
Yeah, I think that's okay. That's it's competitive for coaches, right? I mean, we're in the same boat. We have to, I think what's one of the neat things so far, and it's not just me that's going through, but like you probably doing it, like, a bunch of coaches sharing information, right? Getting on calls, whether it's Zoom or just on the phone, reconnecting with people that they might not have as much time to, get in touch with during a spring season, and sharing information, right? Because I think everybody realizes that too, as a coaching staff, like we're going to be challenged, we're going to be challenged to, to build a really competitive group, and go up against, everybody else's, really competitive group next year too. And that's exciting for us. We really like the team that we had. We started out the year 12-4, which put us in, through 16 games anyway, and it's tied for first place in Conference USA. I don't know, that gets scrubbed in a little while. It kind of, again, those are some things that aren't quite as important anymore as we go through this. But, we were off to a good start, and we like the foundation that we've been building with this group, and we're excited to take that foundation with us next year, and maybe add a piece or two that, that we have coming in. I think that's something that's really exciting for us. But, again, I know that this time, it's important for us to, keep building and growing as coaches to try and help our guys come fall, put them in the best positions for them to be successful. I mean, it's super important, and it's a great opportunity to do that now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously everyone's upset about the season getting canceled, but you guys, especially with the 12-4 start, was it? I mean, I think, being off to a start like that and having the momentum, it's definitely, you guys are probably kicking yourself about that having to be over.
Yeah, we are, but I think that, what's really important is that we all stay safe, right? Like that our guys stay in positions to be healthy, and that, as a individual community here, communities throughout the country, like we can continue to support the people that are out there right now, day to day, first responders, essential workers that, are kind of dealing with challenges far bigger than, how do we get through this midweek game? I think that all of a sudden starts to take a back seat now, and that's okay. Like, I think, we all can, even as adults, right, we can all learn some perspective. We continue to learn that. And, again, hopefully if everybody gets through this, we're able to make this through. Those are some really important lessons that, people of all ages, right, coaches, players, can learn that. And it's a good opportunity for me with kind of spend some more time with my wife and my two little girls, right? Again, it's all spin. Like I've had a chance to watch my 5-year-old learn how to ride a bike now. And who knows if, I might have been in FAU or in Rice when that happened. So I'm not sure if I would have been around for that. So these are all, some things that, again, it's tough. Yeah, we were momentum, we had an opportunity to be in a really good spot, but there's some other blessings that, potentially can come out of this, short term for certain communities, and then long term, hopefully as a country as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I think finding the good and the bad is always the name of the game, no matter which way it goes. But let's want to talk about recruiting a little bit. I think a lot of people don't know that, I mean, Old Dominion, we just talked about it a little bit, has 10 to 12 guys from New Jersey. And so talk about, the Jersey ties a little bit, and obviously, the talent factor you're always looking for in guys, but what specifically are you guys looking for as far as a fit for your program?
Sure. I mean, I think that we're doing some math on it before. We might have Old Dominion might have the most guys from New Jersey outside of a neighboring state of New Jersey, right? Outside of, that area. And, I think for us, it's a good match. The type of personalities we look for. I mean, we're looking for, everybody's looking for talent, right? We're looking for talent the same as anybody else. But I think what we're really looking for, I think what, allows us to have had success at Old Dominion like we've had, is that, we're trying to match that, that search for talent with trying to find awesome humans, right? Like that gets overlooked sometimes. And, we're looking for as good of people as we can find that we want to be around. Like, there's 132 some odd practice and game days that we have at the Division I level, on top of all the other days that guys are on campus, and off days in summer. Like there's a ton of relationship building that happens, in the course of a college season and a college career. And we want to find guys that we want to be around every day, right? We're looking for guys that, that share similar energy than us, that share similar values, that want to have a relationship in terms of, the guys that like being coached, right? Like I want a combination of guys that, have a good feel for who they are, have a good identity to start with, right? And have a really good, grounded and have a sense of purpose in terms of what makes them good. But also guys that are willing, that want to be coached. And it's not just like, hey, do everything I say the way I say it. It's more of like, I think being coached is, willing to have, willing to invest in a relationship, right? Willing to have a give and take, take some feedback and hear some honest things, whether they like that or want to hear it or not, and then be willing to give some feedback as well, right? Like I can only be as good as, sometimes I can be as a coach if I have the, a better feel for what my guys are going through. And so, yeah, I mean, we're looking for really good athletes, both positionally and on the mound. That's the athleticism is a premium for us. And because we believe, our development plan, like what we put in place on the mound positionally, like if we can bring in really good athletes and, kind of work, get in the mud with them, work with them, help them out, like those guys are really going to shine and they're going to keep getting better through our program, through our system, hopefully play through our system at some point. We're looking for on the mound, we're looking for weapons, right? What makes guys, what makes guys, velo's a piece of it, but it's weapons. Like at the end of the day, we're looking for, like when I'm out and watching guys, like if a guy's struggling to get through a lineup in high school, he might, struggling to get that type of contact, swing and miss, those types of things. Like it's going to be hard to translate those types of things into the college level at our level. Guys that have a feel for the strike zone, right? They can control counts. We equate strike throwing in our program to toughness, right? And
Yep.
Coach Finwood does a great job with our program. Talks about that all the time. He says, for me, toughness is your ability to throw strikes in any situation, regardless of how you feel or the moment. So yeah, we're looking for, like I said, athletes, guys that have some weapons, guys that have a little different, little different arsenal, right? We look for guys with some, a couple different looks maybe. We look for strike throwers. But all that stuff's great but if we don't have good humans or guys that match up with who we are personality wise and what the things that we value, it doesn't matter what the talent is, or it doesn't matter what kind of coach we are. It's going to be a struggle to work. And so, that's always important when we talk about fit. But the reason why New Jersey has been so good for us is because of the relationships we have with, programs, high school programs up there that are really strong and summer programs, facilities like yourself. Like we feel like, Carl Nonamaker, who's at Auburn, who I was with at Old Dominion for 2 years, always talks about the idea of like, an essential piece of recruiting is relationships, who who you can trust and who you can lean on. And Coach Finwood always talks about this. Information is key, right? You can never get enough information on a player. And you see it, Mike, with the amount of the speed at which commitments are happening. And that's okay. We're all part of it. That's just the business right now. But with the speed at which that happens, it becomes even more important for us to be able to have a network of people that we can rely on, that we can really lean on and go to bat with and say, hey, you guys see this guy every day. You see him when the lights are off, right? You see him in his worst moments. And is that a guy that's going to be able to withstand, the pace of a college season at our level? And so again, those relationships are essential for us. Like if we're going to find the right guys, and we got to do as much digging in terms of finding out, information about our players, as our recruits, as we can. And so I think we've been fortunate. We've been able to have really good relationships in the state of New Jersey, and in the Northeast in general. We've been able to, kind of branch out of, we've found some really good players, obviously in Virginia, and built a good foundation there. But in order to compete at our level in Conference USA, which is one of the best baseball conferences in America, right? Like we have to find guys from across the country, right? It can't just be, we're going to try and be as good as we can in our area, right at the beach. We got to be really good, finding guys that fit, our style. But then from there, we have to be able to be willing to look in some different places, right? Like we got to find some guys that, can handle going into Southern Miss when they got, 4,000 people to a game, and they got 40 tailgating spots down the first base and right field line. Like that's one of the best places in America to play. I don't care what league. But we got guys, when they blast that foghorn after the national anthem and they say play ball, like we got to have guys that are willing to, be confident enough in themselves to go handle and take that rubber and go after a lineup that's really good. So, the more information we can get on a guy, the more we can develop relationships with that player and with, the people that they're with, the more informed we can be, and hopefully the better decisions we can make.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's something that, we talk to guys about a lot too, is, I mean, obviously, at the Division I level, especially, in today's day and age, obviously majority of these schools are going to have, really nice facilities. They're going to get the gear, they're going to get the uniforms, and we're always talking to them about finding, a staff that you're going to bond with, a school that fits you well, and somewhere where you can fit into what they're doing. Because I think, obviously, being a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid, you can really get lost in the stuff that doesn't matter that much, as far as like the facilities and the $1 million stadiums. So that's something that we stress a lot as far as fit. And obviously building the relationships is huge. Especially, I mean, you take a guy like Kenny Lavari, his situation, like him committing as a sophomore, like has 2 more years of development that he needs to do to be prepared. I mean, obviously when anyone commits to a school, like they're not ready to play at that school at that time. It's all about where, you're projecting them to be. So I think that relationship is important as far as like, hey, knowing somebody that can constantly make sure that he's doing the right thing. And then it also puts, pressure on us, like, hey, this kid's come from here. He was good. And then, we better make sure he's ready to go when he gets up there. So those 2 things are huge.
Sure. No, and that's such a big part of it, right? Like, again, it can happen at the high school level. It can happen at the summer level, or high school season, summer season, wherever it is. But, relationships that you can trust, the human side of that, right? Like being able to lean on that, it's invaluable. Again, especially with the speed at which this process now starts to go. Even, when we were talking with Kenny at the beginning, Mike Ney, who was his pitching coach at St. Aug's, was an Old Dominion grad, right? And so there were a lot of conversations, happening with Mike and saying, hey, you've been through our program, right? You know this experience here. You're well versed in what type of person can thrive here, right? Not just be here, but thrive, right? Be successful. Is Kenny that type of guy? And I mean, he couldn't been any more complimentary of him. And I still remember that conversation, talking to Mike, like hammering it home, like, all right, is this our type of guy? And I remember sitting in my kitchen when Mike and I were talking about that. And those are the types of conversations that, again, are essential, right? Kenny's a super talented player. He's a fantastic kid from a great family. And those things obviously shine through, but you still need to be able to do your homework. And I think that's why, on the recruiting side, right, on the recruit side, being able to be in a program, right, as they're developing, that has relationships with colleges, right, that has, relationships where those colleges can trust those people, their word, their evaluations, being able to find a place where the people in charge are a conduit to the college program. I mean, that's never been more essential than now. So I think that's where like you guys have been able to, I think, be successful and thrive, because you've been able to develop relationships and be able to, develop a reputation where, people can believe and trust, the things that you're doing and the things that you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously really important, especially, I mean, it's pretty easy with the talent down here, to be able to sell some of these guys and the families they come from. I want to get into a little bit of the fun stuff here. Obviously, in today's day and age in college baseball, there's so much talk about individualization and especially as, a college pitching coach handling 14, 15 guys, at one time, which most people don't realize as a pitching coach. Is like, you're not just you and, the top 6 guys. You have 13, 14 guys. Some guys hurt, redshirt, and so there's a lot on the plate there. Talk about, how you guys individualize a little bit. I know we talk about it all the time as far as, going over the throwing programs and all that kind of stuff. So just hit on that a little bit about what you guys do.
Sure. I think that's something that's, that term, is used a lot right now, and for good reason. It's important. Um, you know, my wife's a third grade teacher, and one of the most important things she's got to do, and I try and steal some stuff from her. I try and be a really good thief, right? I steal from you. I steal from my wife, steal from a bunch of different people that are way smarter than me.
Yeah.
To come up with some of these things. But one of the things that's really important for her is, right, like, everybody's going to learn different. She's got to build a classroom, right, that has certain standards, right? Everybody's got to do things a certain way, in the big picture side of things, right? But each kid's going to learn differently. Each kid's going to have certain things that are their strengths and their weaknesses, and you have to develop a plan for that. And so I try and do that here. And we have to have a set of standards as a group, right? It just can't be a free for all, right? We have to have a foundation. We have to share core beliefs, right? In terms of, as a group, like, we have to, it has to boil down to, are we doing things on a day-to-day basis that are going to help us win games, right? And then, from there, are we going to do things to help create outs? Are we going to do things that then are going to help create contact, the type of contact that we want, the type of swing and misses maybe that we want, or the volume of swing and misses, and, our ability to throw strikes? Like, there has to be some common standards. Now, within that structure, we have to then figure out a way to build a plan to get each kid to be able to do that at a high output, right? To be able to help throw a bunch of strikes, create some contact off the barrel, to, gobble up a bunch of outs. We play with an awesome defense, right? We've had a top 30 defense at Old Dominion for, a really long time right now. And so, our ability to be able to, create some type of contact that's going to lead to a bunch of outs, like, all those things hopefully allow us to be in position to win a bunch of games. Well, each guy's going to get to that end goal differently, right? So we have to kind of set that end goal. And I'm constantly trying, like, I'm not saying I'm perfect at that. I got to keep getting better at creating that kind of scaffolding approach or that structure. But as long as everybody knows that, hey, the work that we're putting in is to help us win games, right? Is to help get you on the mound, then how we get there is going to vary, right? And how we build your plan, the plan might have the same, routine card, right? But, what we try and do is give guys a lot of ownership in that. And we're going to give you the layout and say, hey, these are the things, that are important. And this is the structure in which we want you to operate. But, I can't, you're going to be out on your own out there, right? Like, you're going to be one with the ball. I can't help you through every step. And so at some point you and I are going to have to, build an agenda that helps you, helps you when you take the mound. And so, again, I was just listening to Butch Thompson's podcast with Eric Cressy the other night. That he's about as good as it gets, right? I think there are too many guys better than him out there. And it's like, even listening to him made me realize that, like, half the stuff I even talk about is just stolen probably from him and a couple other guys. It's not even my own, but so I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. But I think one of the things that he's talked about that I've kind of, made a part of us is our program is, okay, like, what's your identity? Who are you? And what's going to make you good out there? And we got to know, who you are, what makes you good, what your stuff is, what your level of execution is, and how can we build a plan to keep improving that. And I think that's really important. Like, but we got to know our guys. We got to know what makes them good and what they need in order to get those things that we all want. And then kind of go from there. And so, even like throwing program stuff, like we introduce a bunch, right? Like, we're going to get creative in terms of how we use plyos, right? It's not all going to look the same. We'll pull from a bunch of different angles from a bunch of, like I said, a bunch of people smarter than me, to fit a guy's needs. Like there might be a handful of guys, 2 or 3 guys that have a same, activation routine in terms of plyos. And then we might have, a couple guys that don't use plyos at all. And we might have 8 to 10 guys in the middle there that are going to do 3 to 5 activation, warm-up drills with plyos, and none of those, activation drills look the same, or none of those routines look the same, right? They might pull from some different buckets here and there. And that's going to be the same with throwing program. We're going to use similar terminology in terms of, hey, like range of motion day, stretch toss day, long toss day, that type of thing. But within that, like some guys might like to take it longer than others, and that's okay. We're not going to force guys to, we're not going to be at the same distance at the same time, each guy, and we have to go out this far. Like I want guys throwing. I think it's important, for our workload management to get guys, I think it helps the recovery process to get guys throwing as often as they feel like, and we feel like, they're built for. But, within those structures, we're going to be able to, we have to figure out, the types of volume and intensity level that is going to help those guys recover, build up during the week, and then peak come game day. And we don't want to get into a situation that if we don't learn and know our guys and they're just following a blanket plan and their body doesn't respond well to that, just because it's a plan that's worked for somebody else doesn't guarantee it's going to work for them. And we have to be, as coaches, aware enough to understand that and see that in those guys and make adjustments when it's necessary.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's obviously, I feel like people kind of underestimate, the difficulty of having a whole staff and having to get to know new guys and understand what they do. And just about, what we were talking about the other day, a little about as far as, them filling out their throwing program and their readiness and, how much sleep they got. And then we talked about, it was giving them that number to make sure they're within that threshold of healthy and they've thrown enough, but they haven't thrown too enough. I mean, I think those things are huge, especially now because, having so many guys, like you said, you're not there to babysit them. They have to be able to understand themselves and what they need to do. I mean, the whole basis on, training and getting older is being able to, self-diagnose things and be your own coach. So, when guys get out on the mound and, they can't figure out their breaking ball, it's like, yo, coach, how do I do this? Like they got to be able to adjust. And I think, your better guys are the ones that can adjust on the fly, maybe before they throw that first breaking ball in the game, in the pen, they continued throwing it up or spiking it, and they have that wherewithal to make those kind of adjustments. But I mean that the individualization, I think that's why, I mean, you see some programs continue to produce arm after arm after arm, is because they can give guys, enough information where they can take it and run with it. But at the end of the day, I mean, your development, you can only develop yourself, as much as you want to. So even if you have as many people that are helping you, like those guys, taking it upon themselves to do it is obviously, the most important part, especially during a season.
Right. No doubt. And it's taking ownership, but that's where it goes back into, like, it kind of works back into recruiting, because you need to be able to find a school that you're going to be in an environment where you can learn those skills, right? You can learn how to take ownership of your success, right? Of your plan. But at a place that's going to help nurture that, right? Like that, and I think that's where, it's important. What we've tried to build is we're trying to create an environment where we're going to, I'm going to invest as much as I can into our day-to-day, right? To create an amazing experience for you on a daily basis. Like, I'm going to be involved in your process, right? I want to know how you're doing and how we can, what I can do to help you put you in positions to be successful. Like, that's my job every day, is to wake up, make sure I'm recruiting the right types of guys, making sure, we have our support staff is being taken care of and they're doing the things they need to help our guys. And then, for me, it's getting to the park and, okay, this is what I believe is important for this group. And I'm going to learn for the individual, but your feedback on, like, hey, what do I need to do to help you be in a position to be successful? Like, they got to be able to learn, and they're not going to learn that right away. Like, a freshman's not going to be able to understand that necessarily. But once you get to a junior and a senior, that's as much my role evolves in their development, right, in their process. And you talked about individualized, like it's going to be different. Individualized is that we're not going to, if we really have a relationship with players, like that relationship is going to evolve over time. Guys are going to have different needs are going to come up, right? Like we're going to be able to, to move from one thing to the other as we grow, as a coaching staff with those players. So a senior might not need the same thing as a freshman. And that's something that we struggle with from a practice design standpoint. It's like, okay, like I want to make sure we hit these areas, but I know this guy's kind of already, check those boxes off. And this guy, because he's a young guy, might need to do more of this in terms of game management, right? Learning how to hold runners, field his position, understand how to slow the game down when it starts to speed up on you, those types of things. And so that's where, from an individualization standpoint, that's where it comes into play. I also think, kind of rolling in, into data, right, into some of the analytics, that also comes into play, that how we use it as a group, how we use it, for individuals. We have Rapsodo that we have in the pen. We actually have Yacker Tech on the field. They've been rolling out. They're in the process of rolling out a camera system that we think we're pretty excited about and think's going to, have a really good future in terms of giving us some good feedback on information on the field. And with them, Baseball Cloud, they have a partnership there. So we're excited about the information that, we were starting to gather here. But I think all that comes back to the same thing, like how we use Rapsodo for everybody is we use it, essentially to create a profile at first, right? We're going to use it. We're going to roll it through in bullpens. Most of the time I'm not going to be sitting there and they're throwing a pitch and we're looking just from a logistic standpoint, it's a little bit challenging. But even so, we can make that work. I think I'd rather have guys, I want to learn their, what their stuff is, who they are, what their stuff does first before we just start making wholesale changes, right? And so a bullpen with a junior might be a little bit different than a bullpen with a freshman. A bullpen with a junior, we might be getting real specific into pitch design. This is what your breaking ball has been doing. This is where we want to get to. We have now, we have a file of information in terms of how that pitch has produced in game, how it's performed in game, right? What the results are on it, what the contact rate, swing and miss, anything like that, like versus a freshman, we're just trying to make sure that a freshman can do the basic, most essential things, like I talked about before, that we need to win games. Like they need to be able to learn how to control the strike zone here. They need to be able to have a weapon off of their fastball that's going to help, them, keep guys off timing. And then they're going to have to learn how to be, inside that 1-3 range and be able to mix looks and be able to, when somebody puts a bunt down, be able to know what base to throw to. Those guys might need some more work in those areas, and we might not be able to spend and invest as much time early in a pitch design for that guy. If that guy comes in and he's got all those boxes checked off, then we can move on, right? But I think that, again, it's learning. We use data the same way. It's learning what those guys need, and then we're going to build a plan off of that. And data is a tool. We have all the tools that we need, in our opinion, like in the bullpen, on the game mound, to be able to give us good feedback. But how we use it, again, it's we can't just, we want to be specific and purposeful with how we use that information, because those guys are always trying to compete up and down the ladder to find a role, right? To be competitive, it's not just, perfecting their stuff, but it's getting their stuff to play in a game, with all the other stuff that's going on well enough so that they can carve out a role for themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I think obviously Rapsodo makes it takes the guessing out. So you always see those certain guys that are like, why does this guy not get hit? His stuff is not that good. He doesn't throw that hard. His breaking ball is not that good. It takes the guessing out. I mean, it makes it so much easier to diagnose certain things with certain guys. But I think there also has to be a balance of how you use it and then how you implement it. I mean, there's a lot of times where like you'll see a guy and you're like, no one hits this guy's breaking ball. You'll put him on there and it's like, well, it's a pretty average pitch on Rapsodo. And I think that's that's the issue where people run into is they make those kind of changes without, understanding how everything works. Like if they have an elite fastball or, if their breaking ball spins a lot and it just matches well. But I think especially in a college setting, it's good because even like you said, going over there, guys can actually use it to get better differently than what you would, I mean, when I was in college, we didn't have anything. So I was just up there, I had my 25 pitches and I would just throw them. And, I'd be like, that breaking ball was nasty. And, I was actually talking about that with Coach Grun the other day. I did a video of me throwing a breaking ball. I remember saying that day, I'm like, this thing's nasty. I'm looking at it now and I'm like, wow, that moved maybe 1 inch. And it just makes it so much easier to be able to diagnose it and have guys, hey, like you need to get your fastball to here, you need to get your breaking ball to here, and they can do that on their own by using it, and it makes it, it takes the guessing out and makes it a lot easier on you guys.
But I think the one thing that we can't ever forget about is the hitter's going to tell you the story.
Yep.
Right. So when we use technology, we got to use it based off of, okay, the hitter's telling me a story that I need to make some adjustments. How can I use Rapsodo to give me as a guide to help me make adjustments better? Yep. Right. Like it's basically, it's a flashlight in the dark, right? If I'm struggling out there and the hitter's telling me I'm struggling, the game's telling me I'm struggling, then, you can use this information, we can use that to now go back to work with a little bit more clarity in terms of what needs to be adjusted. And we can speed up that adjustment process a little bit quicker, by using some of that information. So that's how we kind of use it, but it can't replace the hitter and what the hitter tells you. And, because we're getting a certain set of, of metrics on Rapsodo or any technology that you have, but, there's so much that we still don't know in terms of, okay, the combination of this with this, what does that lead to?
Yep.
We can throw, as we're learning, hey, there's certain things that 2 years ago when this stuff was coming out, was wildly important that now isn't quite as important as we thought it was.
Yep.
But we can't go too heavy down the road into that. What always is going to tell us is the hitter, right? The hitter is always going to tell us whether, our stuff's in a good spot or not. And what the data can tell us now, what the technology can tell us is, hey, it can confirm that. So it can give a guy, that's the other part, it can give a guy confidence. If a guy's struggling out there, but his data, his numbers are really good, hey man, just stay with it. Eventually you're going to you're going to bust through, because, if you can just kind of hold on to and kind of, throw strike one and get through some at bats, like this stuff's going to play up, I promise, gives guys a little shot of life. Or on the other side, like, hey man, like whether the numbers are good or not, like the hitters are telling you that you need to fix something. And here's what we can do. Here's how we can use this information to help, a fix that, can be in, a couple bullpens, maybe in a shorter amount of time versus, a whole semester, a whole year's worth of work.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's exactly right. Especially that's kind of like that balance of, you hear a lot of people talk about like trusting your eyes, and it's where it's like, you see things and you it's good, and certain guys are feeling well and they're just locked in compared to like, hey, your fastball's a little bit weird today, but he's executing it really well and the breaking ball's pairing well. So it's crazy how far I think on the pitching end too, how far pitching has come. I mean, we always talk about like hitting Twitter versus pitching Twitter. And it's crazy because, we can come on here and talk about pitching and like we can agree on so many things. And, you go on hitting Twitter and you see, 10 people arguing that, who's right, who's wrong. And I think, on the pitching end, we're more along the lines of, maybe everyone is right. And, we can take certain pieces from everybody to kind of help develop guys. And especially in today's day and age, I mean, the data you have, I mean, you can't ignore it. It definitely helps. And if it's implemented the right way, I mean, it's huge as far as development and getting guys out and taking, programs like Old Dominion to the next level.
Sure. And I mean, I heard Eugene Bleecker say it at 108 Performance, but I'm sure it's, it's been out there too. It's like everything works and everything stinks, or everything doesn't work, right? Like, so that's, it goes back on, our role as coaches to be able to try and find, ways to connect with people, right? That's why that relationship side of things becomes really even more important, is like, we have to figure out, a big part of our job is to help teach guys cues that work for them specifically, and to get them to learn that and lean on those cues when it's important for them to like you said, self-diagnose. So I think that's a big part, right? It's finding a balance of how can we use all this stuff, and how can we take a bunch of different things that are a bunch of different tools, but still not lose sight of at our core who we are, right? And not lose sight of, the guys that are the best are the ones that typically can keep it simple the best, like how can we use all this to boil and funnel it down to a couple of simple, kind of, set of belief systems.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially, talking about the cues, like, I mean, I'm sure I've probably used 50 different cues for certain things. And, I could tell somebody one way and they could, progress and it would work. And I could tell the same guy the same thing, another guy the same thing, and, it actually makes them worse. So that's really the whole key, is just being able to, and back to the whole building relationships thing, is being able to know guys and like you said, how they learn and how they, take things in is huge. But I mean, I don't know, I've pretty much hit on all the topics that, I wanted to go through. So I don't know if there's anything you want to add as far as, Old Dominion and
Well, I mean, I think from an Old Dominion standpoint, like we kind of touched on the fact that Jersey guys, have this has been a good destination for them, right? And we've had obviously some guys with some good success. I mean, I think I didn't really know much about Old Dominion when I got here 5 years ago, right? And I'll be honest, I mean, I grew up in Philly, so I'm, across the river from you guys. Grew up in Abington, and then went to school up in Massachusetts at Holy Cross, lived up in Boston, and then lived in New York when I was in Stony Brook, right? And so I've lived all over the Northeast corridor, and I wasn't sure. I knew it was an amazing baseball opportunity and professional opportunity for me to come down here, and that was a big reason why, we took the job, moved my wife and at the time one child with me. I just didn't realize how much I was going to fall in love with this area and with this school. After 5 years of being here. I mean, the location is incredible. Tidewater area, Norfolk in general. What's great about it is that you're able to be, for a guy in your area, you're 4 hours from the Delaware Memorial Bridge, right? And you're taking an easy drive down here through Delaware. You don't got to be stuck in traffic running through DC and 95 and all that nonsense.
Yeah.
From a family side of things, that's pretty important. I mean, we play 35 games here at home a year in a 56 game schedule. I mean, that's a crazy, I remember being, it's a big difference to be able to sleep in your own bed the first 4 weeks of the season, like we do. And then, again, when you're having to travel, you're doing midweek games against UVA, Virginia Tech, East Carolina, and, VCU William & Mary playing an unbelievable non-conference. And then when you got to hop on a plane and head somewhere else, you're going to Southern Miss or Louisiana Tech or Rice or FAU, FIU. I mean, it's a bear of a conference. Like this is a bear of a 10-week schedule. And, it's even more challenging, I think, than, maybe what I assumed it would be. It doesn't have that, maybe that name brand, recognition, but I mean, it's one of the best baseball conferences in America. And I feel, strong about that. And so I think it's neat for a guy from your area to be able to come down to, to the beach here, be close enough to home that their family can come see him play, anytime they want of those 35 home games. But when they're not at home, they're playing on a national schedule, right? They're playing all across the country against some of the best competition out here. And I think that's something that's really neat and unique to us, right? You don't get a chance to play a national Southern type of schedule at a place so close to home. And so I think that's something that's been a really cool balance for a lot of guys that have, chosen to come to Old Dominion. I mean, our facility is pretty awesome too. It's its own little oasis, right? Like we have our offices are right there, their locker rooms right there, the hitting facility. Everything is is self-contained right there at the Bud, and right behind the left field wall is the rest of our support staff, which is outstanding. Our strength and conditioning department, our academic services department, right? Our athletic training, all those guys are housed right outside, basically a couple 100 feet away from home plate. And then where most of our guys live off campus, all our guys live as freshmen. They live on campus. We think it's important for them to get that experience, to be on campus. But when they move off sophomore through senior year, those guys move all the way to across the street, basically, from the field into brand new townhouses that have been built probably 5 years ago. They're all off campus houses, but we have relationships that, we've been able to get. I think this year we had over 20 guys living in townhouses that when you look out your window from your bedroom, you're looking out into your home field every day. Again, I think you can't. It's incredible. Be able to walk out your door, go 50 feet, and be at your field. I don't think you can draw it up much better than. I don't have a plan that could draw it up to be better than that. And so I think that's something that, again, our location, our facility, they've had. I think it's over $5 million have been invested in the facility in the last 8 or 9 years. So baseball is important here. I think that's a cool thing too. Baseball is invested in here. And I talked a little bit about Conference USA as good a conference that is in our non-conference schedule. I mean, I think what's cool too is our coaching staff loves to get in the dirt and develop guys. Like Coach Finwood loves to get after guys and get, like I said, get dirty and get to work. And he still loves and has a passion for coaching. Logan Robbins, our assistant coach, our recruiting coordinator, working with the hitters, like he loves to get after them. We've talked about, like, we've spent a lot of time during this break. We need to spend our time talking about recruiting, but we spent a lot of time too talking about, like, all right, all the ideas that we want to get after in terms of how we get this next year's group better, from a development side of things, how we want to build our own kind of instructs, right, when we get back, whenever that is. So this coaching staff loves to develop, it loves to work, it loves to, to help guys on a day-to-day basis with that experience. And like I said, the support staff's awesome, and our academic team is great. I mean, we haven't talked too much about this maybe in the past, but last semester we had a 3.24 GPA. It was the highest GPA of any men's sport on campus. And then the spring semester before this, we actually had the highest team GPA of any baseball program in Conference USA. So, we got guys if you want to be challenged in the classroom, you can be challenged here. And I think that's the neat thing about it. We've had 4 or 5 guys that have run through our engineering program, our engineering track here in the last couple of years. I was actually just on a call. We were on a call with some different schools' strength and conditioning department. We were just kind of sharing some ideas, and I brought one of our 6th-year, a guy who's our 5th-year senior, who's doing his master's in biomechanical engineering, wants to build a force plate into a mound and do a bunch of kinematic research. And that's the type of guy, like, that kid could have probably gone academically anywhere in the country, but he was a beach kid. He wanted to be, he had a family legacy here at Old Dominion. His brother played here, and he thought he could get the best of both worlds, right? He could get an opportunity to play at the highest level baseball-wise and get a chance to get an unbelievable degree. And he's been able to see both of those things come out. And so I think that's pretty, it's pretty awesome. Everybody's going to have their unique qualities, right? Every school is going to have their things that make them special and different. But I think that we got a lot of things that make us really cool here, right? Like, I'm not saying we're not the most awesome place in America, maybe, I don't know, but we got a lot of things that create an atmosphere here that allow guys to have a really good experience. And that's the thing that you want to feel as a coach. You walk away with, that guys can leave here and say, like, hey, I feel like I got better as a person, as a human. I feel like I got better as a player. I feel like I was in an environment where I can have some lasting memories and have a legacy that, I can feel really proud of. And I know, everything that we have here, all the stuff is great. The location is great. The climate's great. All those things are outstanding. But I think it's the people here that allow us to have the success that we've had. The people that we've been able to bring in as part of our program, recruiting wise, the people we have support wise, the other guys on our coaching staff. That's a big reason why we've, been able to, have the wins on the field at the end of the season like we've had, and we've done that a decent amount here.
Yeah, I mean, I think, at the end of the day, the college experience is super important, and every school has to have the intangibles to be able to turn, boys into men. And we're excited to get Kenny and Luke up there in the fall and get them started. So
Yeah, it's going to be a good group. Like this
yeah,
incoming group we're excited about. And shoot, I mean, that's the crazy part with recruiting, right? We've been recruiting some of these guys for 3 years, and
yeah, finally getting up there now.
yeah, and so we're excited about the incoming class. And again, we're excited because the relationships we've been able to build with them make us feel really good about their ability to transition into our culture and our atmosphere here. That's something we're super excited about. I think we have we got I'm sticking with the Jersey boys on the mound. We got 3 of them coming in, so I'm excited about that. We branched out with we got a North Jersey guy to mix in with our Southern Jersey feel. But no, it's a really good group of kids, of people. We do those recruiting like everybody does, right? In November, we bring the whole class in to get their official visit. And we like, this is a group that we were super excited about, that we walked away after that weekend being like, man, we I like spending time with these guys.
Yeah,
And that's such a big part. Like, if you're picking a school, I can't impress that enough. Like, you want to be able to go to a place where you feel like you're going to want to be around that staff, and that staff has to be able to find guys that they want to be around every day. If you don't have that, it's going to be really hard. And that's not an easy thing to always figure out. But again, that's why we try and spend as much time investing in relationships as we can.
yeah. I mean, that's huge, and yeah, I mean, I think we covered a lot of topics, and then we
Fit it under the hour. We got it under the hour, man. We
did it
didn't
in
get
the
it under
hour too, by
45.
a couple minutes, so that's awesome. But anyway, I appreciate you hopping on with us and giving us some insight, and we'll see you out there on the recruiting trail this summer.
Yeah, Mike, I appreciate the time. You and Ed are doing an outstanding job. You more than Ed, but you guys are both doing an outstanding job building your brand and doing it the right way. You guys have it's been exciting to watch you guys grow and watch you guys develop. And I hope you keep doing what you're doing, because I think it works. The kids that you have there are really good kids, and you've done a great job in terms of, taking care of them, building them up, and putting them in good positions to be successful. So keep doing what you're doing. All right.
I appreciate that. Will do.
All right. See you guys. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Have a good one.